I've met a lot of really, really good runners in the last 20 years of my running career. And you know what? None of them relied on willpower to do all the training that made them into really good runners. No, they're actually much more disciplined than you might think. And so that's what I want to talk about in this video today. Discipline versus willpower. We're on day 3 of our focus on our mindset this week. If you've missed our first 2 videos on Monday and Tuesday, do check them out. We're talking about reducing the risk of burnout and how to take more running risks. Today, we're going to talk about willpower and why I think it's really overrated. Willpower is not something that I think most runners should try to cultivate. That's because it's fleeting. It's unreliable. Sometimes you have a lot of willpower and you can withstand any kind of peer pressure. You have the most amount of self-control, but sometimes you don't have any willpower and you succumb to that box of Oreos. I know I recently did. And there could be a lot of examples about how your willpower is lacking, and then you don't do the thing that you know you should do. And I think it's interesting that in all of my conversations with dozens of pro runners for the Strength Running podcast, not one of them has outlined willpower as a tool that they use to be able to do all the hard workouts, the high mileage, and the high pressure racing that they do. No, they all use discipline. They've cultivated discipline over the years. And so let's talk about how we can do the same. Because I think for the rest of us, if we're trying to rely on willpower, we are playing a game that we are going to lose. So instead, let's develop our sense of discipline. Let's become more disciplined so that we can actually do what we set out to do and then accomplish more of our goals. I think it's first helpful to understand the moments in which your willpower typically fails so that you can build systems around those issues and around those scenarios so they just don't really happen, or they happen very rarely. So I know for me, I can't really run in the afternoon. If I wait until 4 or 5 in the afternoon, or if I wait until after I put my kids to bed at night, I'm just not going to do my run. So for me, I know I don't have the willpower to get out there and go for a run when, we're cooking dinner as a family, maybe we've opened a bottle of wine. That's going to be really hard for me to go out for a run in that kind of environment. So I like to get my run done in the early. Let's get the hard things done first so that they're all completed and I don't have to worry about them the rest of the day. Some runners also really like to do their strength work right after their run because they know that if they wait later in the day, it's just not going to get done. And I fall into this group too. I have talked about this sandwiching concept many times before, and it's just this idea that every run is preceded by a dynamic warm-up, and then when you're finished with your run, you do a runner-specific core or strength routine. It's great for strength building, it's great for mobility, it's great for cooling down and injury prevention reasons, but a lot of the times runners will run in the morning, not have enough time to do their strength work, and they'll say, I'll do it during my lunch hour. Or I'll do it when I come home from work or sometime in the evening, and it just doesn't get done. So I would love to see runners either get up 10 minutes earlier or even skip a mile of their planned run so that they can actually get in the strength work because it's that important. And setting up this kind of a structure where you know you have to do it right after your run prevents the situation where you know you're going to fail. If you know you have trouble doing your strength work later in the day, don't put yourself in that position and you'll probably get it done much more frequently. Another really common failure of willpower is when folks skip breakfast and then they find themselves snacking or overeating later in the day when that's not part of their plan. And it's very easy to do this when we backload our calories throughout the day. And by skipping breakfast, you're putting yourself in a calorie deficit. You're putting yourself in a situation where you are going to have to rely on willpower to eat the right foods later in the day at a moment when you're really hungry. And research has shown that when you're hungry, you're more likely, when you're very hungry, you're much more likely to make poor dietary decisions. So we've got to eat our breakfast earlier in the day to prevent this kind of issue later in the day. And it's also really helpful to make sure that you're eating all of the food groups every time that you sit down for a meal. And I don't necessarily mean a grain, some dairy, fruit and vegetables. I mean all of the macronutrients of fat, carbohydrate, and protein. By having your meals be more well-rounded like that, you're much more likely to not overeat later in the day. Now, there's probably 1,000,001 different scenarios where you can find yourself lacking willpower, and then kind of think back and you can ask yourself, how do I create an environment in which I don't put myself in this position at all? So for me, I try to eat breakfast, I try to run first thing in the morning, and then I do my strength work right after my run. If I get those things done, I get 80% of the way there with doing all the training that I need to do. Now, you might have a different schedule that works for you. You might have different rules that you follow in your training to help yourself actually get the training done and be more consistent with your training. No matter what schedule you prefer, no matter how you like to structure things, find what works for you, and you'll be much more likely to follow through with your training. It can also be very helpful to remind yourself why you're doing all this hard work in the first place. So if you're having trouble getting up early to go for your run, or you're always cutting a workout short because it was too uncomfortable, or you just don't really want to do your long run because it's kind of long, it can be really helpful to take a step back and really think, why am I doing this? What are the values that I'm trying to live by? For me, for a very long time, I wanted to get faster. That was my overarching goal. Nothing got in the way of that. And if I was so committed to that goal, I was never going to skip a run. I was never going to cut a workout short because I was so disciplined, partly because I was so invested in the goal of improvement. Things are a little bit different right now. I'm not really chasing any personal bests anymore, but I am still running all the time because for me, it's really important, number one, for my general health. I want to be a healthy person, and that is important to me. Number two, I want to set a good example for my kids. And having them see me get ready for my run, go out for the run, almost every day that they're home, they see this. So in a way, I've normalized formal exercise. They're used to seeing their dad go out for a run. They sometimes join me when we're doing our dynamic warm-up. Seeing a 3-year-old do some lunges is pretty hilarious. But it's a great way of having the family be a little bit more involved, getting the kids exposed to exercise, and setting a good example for your kids so that when they get older, it's not really a weird thing for them to start running or to start being engaged in any sport that interests them. So if you find yourself being someone who struggles with willpower, try to forget it. You don't have to worry about how much willpower you have, because no matter who you're talking to, whether it's an elite runner, whether it's someone competing at the college level, or someone who just started running yesterday, all of us struggle with issues of self-control and of willpower. So don't think that elite runners or any pro has it better than you. They've simply cultivated the habit of discipline over a long period of time so that they're able to follow through with their training. And I think if you can identify when you're more likely to fail and then eliminate those scenarios from your life and try to work around them, try to create systems around your training to make it more likely that you'll be consistent, you're going to be a much more effective runner. You're going to be a much more consistent and successful runner. Because if you know what to focus on, both in the moment and then long term, you're going to be able to reach more of your goals and thrive as an athlete. Hey, it's Jason with a quick note for you at the end of this video. If you're liking this series on mental fitness, if you're interested in building more of your mental skills like focus, intensity, anxiety management, confidence, and mental toughness, then I want you to check out our newest program from Strength Running, Mindset Mastery. This is a course that is going to help you develop these mental skills and work on your mental fitness. So if you're someone who maybe gives up at the end of a race, you're not very confident, you get a lot of pre-race anxiety, and you really want to work on the skills that will make running more productive for you. And of course, these skills will bleed into the rest of your life, which is just amazing. One of the things I love about performance psychology. So if you're interested in this, Click on the link at the top of this video or under this video on YouTube and see all the details about Mindset Mastery. We're including video presentations. There are mental exercises for you to perform so that you're really ingraining these skills into your running on a day-by-day basis. But of course, these skills cannot be developed in a vacuum. They have to be built alongside the training itself. That's why we have a complete training plan library where all the training plans really focus on challenging you. Because if you're not being challenged, if you're not exposing yourself to stress, then you won't adapt to that stress and get better, both physically and mentally. So check out that link. I want you to make sure if Mindset Mastery is right for you. And if it is, I hope to welcome you inside the program very soon.